Hi everyone, and welcome to the book Refuge. And as you can tell by the title, this is going to be an unhaul today. So I don't usually film these because the way that I get rid of books is usually as I read them. There'll be one or two each month that I don't want, and I just kind of save them all up and then take them to either a thrift shop or a local bookstore. So what I do, that kind of tells you what I do with my used books is the books I'm getting rid of, I let my sister and my best friend look at them first, and if there's any that they want, they'll pick those out. Otherwise, I donate them all to the Boys and Girls Club in my town or the Goodwill. I alternate where I take them because both of those are charities that fund things that are really important to me. And then there is one actual used bookstore in town that when I need more credit for, I'll bring a few books to them. Usually I have lots of credit there and I don't need to take any in, but this time I do because I actually used up the last of the credit I had last time. So I'll probably bring like half of these to that bookshop and the rest I will donate. So just so you know, whenever I do a book haul, someone asks if they can have any of the books I'm getting rid of. That is like more of an undertaking than I'm willing to take on, and I donate them or else I'll use some of them for credit. But they all go to, a new home where people will love them, and a lot of them will actually benefit, people in need. There's also a women's shelter that are our savers in town. They donate a lot of their money to our women's shelter in town, so I like to support them as well. So let's go ahead and dive into this unhaul. I have about 50 books that I'm unhauling today, I think it's actually more like 60, which is good because I just passed 1,000 books in my home library. And as you know, I just did I just built another bookshelf. I added a book cart, which is actually, you can see it, it's over there. And I'm just overflowing with stuff. And a lot of them are historical romances because that's sorry, I messed my camera up when I moved it. That's, what I'm really into right now. And so what I did is I went through my bookshelves in my living room mostly, and I'm getting rid of a lot of fantasy books. So the way I'm gonna break this up is first I have a pile over here that is books that I have read and I don't plan to read again, or I don't wanna keep them for nostalgia reasons. I don't hate all of these ones, they're just, I'm not going to read them again. These are the ones I'll probably talk the most about because you've seen me read them on my channel, some of them. And then you can't see what I'm putting in. And then I have a big stack over here that is books that I either didn't even, I DNF them, or I just don't think that I'm going to get to them in a timely manner. And I mean, with all the books that I own and all the books that I read, I don't need to be keeping ones that I don't think that I'll get to. So I want to give them to someone who will really care about them. And this is hard for me to do because I spend a lot of money on these, and it kind of is like, it should be a wake-up call to me to not be so buy whatever I want, but whatever. So let's go ahead, let's get started with ones that I have read, don't plan to read again, don't know where we're going. So the first thing that I have is I actually have the first two books in the All Souls trilogy, and I also have the third one too. So I've read these first two books. I read these over a year ago. I really liked The Discovery of Witches. It was really interesting. I hadn't read a paranormal romance in a really long time, and it was fun. Then we got to the second one, Shadow of Night, and it was slow. It took me 6 months to get through that book, and books these days don't take me that long to read. That doesn't happen. If I'm not getting through a book within a week, or the times that I pick it up, I'm pushing through it, it's not going to end up being worth my time. So yeah, this was just not going to happen. So I'm going to get rid of the 3 of those ones. Then I have a trilogy that I actually really liked. This trilogy, both me and my sister, I think, read this, and I really liked it, but I'm not going to read it again. And when I look at a book series and I can't remember as much of what happened in it, it's kind of a sign. It's going to get warm in here really quick. It's kind of a sign that it's time to let go. And this has been on my favorite shelf for a while. And when I looked at my favorite shelf, I was like, okay, there's got to be books on this favorite shelf that aren't favorites anymore. And that, I talked enough. That is the this Witches trilogy. The first one is Trial by Fire. and then it is Firewalker, and then it is Witch's Pyre. These are by Josephine Angelini. Sorry, there's construction happening out there, like in my last couple of videos. This was a really good trilogy. It has to do with like multiple universes. One is magical, one is not. And we have a girl who she is in the wrong universe. And so the universe she's living in is making her sick. She's allergic to everything. But in the proper universe, she's not. It was good. I enjoyed it as it was coming out, but I'm not going to read it again. Then I have 2 books by Sarah Bernard. Both of these were pretty hard-hitting contemporary books, and I really like them. But I'm very picky about YA contemporary books, and I love these, but I'm not going to read them again, and I just don't need to keep them on my shelf. So the first one is Goodbye Perfect, which I actually read because Murphy suggested it, and I really, really liked it. This is about a girl who her best friend runs away with her teacher, and you get to view, and like the friend is in contact with her, and this girl, Eden, she really has to come to terms with, is she doing the best thing for her friend to turn them in? Or should she take her friend's side who thinks that this is romantic? This was a very compelling book. And then there's A Quiet Kind of Thunder, which I'm surprised that I'm getting rid of this, but when I looked at it, like I just knew that I wasn't going to read it again. This is about a girl who has selective mutism and a boy who is deaf, and so she'd actually like learned some sign language to help her communicate because she wouldn't talk. And so when this new boy, Reese, who is deaf, comes to her school, she kind of befriends him because she can talk to him without speaking with words. And I really enjoyed this book. I also read this on Murphy's recommendation. I really love sign language. I think it is beautiful. And this was a really fun book, and I liked the kind of diversity that was included in it, but I'm not going to read it again. Then I have a couple historical romances. The first, I absolutely love this book, but I found a better copy than this. This is what happens sometimes when you order from thrift books. Sometimes when you choose like the good, it's pretty beat up, which is totally fine, but I ended up finding a copy of it at a used bookstore that was brand new. So this is just the extra copy that I'm taking in. I read His Scandalous Kiss by Sophia Barnes. I just read this. Did I read it last month or at the beginning of this month? I think I read it last month because it was on my TBR. And this one it didn't have the sexy time that I wanted. I felt that it wasn't as tantalizing as was promised to me. And so I had to just like, I don't want to read this again. I don't want to hand it off to my sister. I think this could be a good starter book for people, as I said, because if you don't know if you want a lot of steam in your historical romance, there was one sex scene and the rest of them were like fade to black. But it was very sexy and fun. It just didn't have the bang time that I wanted. But this is actually about a opera singer and a war hero who's been scarred, and so he's kind of hiding himself away, and they find each other through music. It's really good. Then there's The Wicked Duke by Madeline Hunter. This just didn't connect with me because I felt like the hero was very manipulative and hiding a secret that was just too big for me. And I feel like Madeline Hunter didn't pull off this kind of character the way that like Lisa Kleypas or Lorraine Heath would have, because I've seen situations like this in those books, and I feel that the hero pays off better than this one does. And yeah, so I just don't want to read that again. And then I have 2 favorites from my childhood, and this hurts me, but I'm getting rid of 2 Ted Dekker books, Blink of an Eye and The Boneman's Daughters. These are just a type of book that I don't read anymore. They were thrillers. I love Ted Dekker. I do, but I look at his books and they're just not a kind of book that I want to read anymore. And so this one's very interesting though. This is about a guy named Seth he has a really high IQ, and he starts getting these powers of premonition where he can see a certain amount into time. And then it's about a girl named Miriam who is trying to escape her family in Saudi Arabia, where there are honor killings in her family, and where there is like forced marriages, and the guy that she's promised to is this really brutal, horrible man, and so she runs away, and her and Seth end up connecting. And I really love this book, but I just don't think I'm ever gonna read it again because I can't go to that. But if you like thrillers, if you like, there's some like romantic suspense, I think you could really love this book, so check this out. And then the Boneman Daughters is about an intelligence officer who he's kind of like accused of being this serial killer when his daughter gets taken by him. And that's all that I really remember because it's been over 10 years since I've read this. Songbirds and Snakes, enough is said. I don't want to pass this on to anyone. I don't want to read it. I hope someone feels really cool that they find this in a thrift store. That's what I have to say about it. So good for them. Then, this one's actually kind of hard. And this, I probably will ask my sister if she wants to read these ones before I get rid of them, is the Side Trilogy by Neal Shusterman. I really enjoyed this trilogy. I think it's really good. I think you should check it out. I have talked about it a lot when the new one came out. But this isn't a trilogy that I need to read again because I feel like once you know the secrets of it, I don't see enjoying a reread of this series. It's very stressful and there's not a ton of romance in this, which a lot of people will like. But it just didn't have enough for me. And this last book was there's so many layers to it. I just don't like that kind of stuff anymore. Like I just want what I want and I want it to happen. And this just didn't do it for me. Then I have Bringing Down the Duke. I read this at the beginning of June. This was our group read, and it was too women's fiction and not enough historical romance for me. I didn't really care for either of the characters. Their romance was pretty spicy, but it has a trope in here that I really don't like, which you can see more about if you go back to my reading vlogs from that time, the beginning of June. And I just don't know. I'm undecided if I'm going to continue the series or not. I did request the ARC for the second book, so if I get it, I would read it, but otherwise I probably wouldn't buy another one of these, because especially since it is in the trade paperback setting, this is like twice as much as a mass market paperback would be, and for a series that I'm not completely sold on, I just don't want to pay that for it. Like, just being mercenary about it, I don't. Insidious by Alitha Ramig. I read this at my friend Steph's pick. It just didn't connect with me. This wasn't a romance to me. This was a erotic thriller is what it's called. And I just didn't enjoy it, but I understand why people would. If that is the kind of books that you like, this book would just be everything you wanted, but it just wasn't. It wasn't for Jenn. Foundry Side, this is one I actually DNF'd. I only made it about halfway in. I'm interested to see what people think of this series as a whole. Maybe I would go back to it one day, but I just don't think that I would, so I'm not going to keep it because I need room for other books that I want to read. So next, I'm getting rid of Dossal by K.M. Spara, which I gave this this is a 5-star read for me. I think I read this back in April or May. This book is so intense, and I maybe would have liked it because it's slave fic. It is. And I'm not above reading that, obviously. I'm a dark romance. But because this was put as sci-fi, it's not a romance. Doesn't really have a happily ever after. And the way that this story's set up, it can't. Because we're not dealing with slavery in the... can't believe I'm saying this. We're not dealing with sex slavery in maybe the like captor-captive sense, which I'm here for. We're dealing with it in like, we're examining what slavery means. And when you're examining it, it can't be sexy and fun, you know? It can't feed that like sexy part of me that wants to, that dark part of me, because you need to be on the side of this is wrong when you're examining it. Does that make sense? And whereas if I'm reading a captor-captive romance fic, like, I know that they're gonna fall in love and that that's twisted. But in this, when we're dealing with like how the owner feels about this, how the slave feels about this, I just, you know, so I gave it 5 stars because I think it does dive into that question, but it's not a romance and it's not a book I ever want to read again, even though it was 5 stars, because I think it really was diving into that question in a really, like, it uses 2 white men. This is a male-male interaction. It deals with like capitalism and like looking into that, and it's fascinating, but I don't ever want to read this again, and I can't recommend it easily. Like, when I reviewed this book in my reading vlog about it, like, I can't easily recommend this book to someone because there wasn't anything enjoyable about it, right? It's kind of like when I read My Dark Vanessa. Like, that book has a lot going on, but I can't like give it a 5. Like, I can't recommend it to people because it's not fun. Dirty for Me by Jackie Asherden. This was a fun book, but I've just seen everything in this book done better, and I'm not going to read it again, and I don't want to recommend it to anyone. So, okay, so I think that's all the ones that I have read. So let's dive into some that I'm not going to read, and you're going to see a lot of these are fantasy because a few years ago my channel was mostly me reading fantasy books, and I bought a lot of these books off recommendations of people towards that. And when I looked at these ones, when I went through my shelves, I don't see myself picking these up within the next year or even the next ever. And so it's time to cull them from my library. So first, I will just show this. I have 5 books here by Stephen Lawhead. These I bought because my friend Phil really loved this author, and he said that it was a time travel story. And so back when when I was first starting to read Outlander, he told me I should try these. I just never got to it. There's also a trilogy that's like about Robin Hood. So there's Hood and Scarlet, and the last one is like, I can't remember what the third one's called because I haven't read it, Tuck. And I'm just not gonna read these. I have tried so hard to read Robin Hood retellings, and I've never liked a single one. So maybe it's time to just give up the ghost, right? Where else can we go here? Ooh, let's do these ones. I am unhauling all the Joe Abercrombie that I bought because I don't like grimdark really at all. And when all my friends were reading them, I picked them up, but I don't want them now, so I'm not going to do it. But I have Half a World, Half a King, the newest book, A Little Hatred, and The Blade Itself. I'm just not going to read these, so it's time to send them on their way, basically. So I'm gonna do that. I might send 1 or 2 of these to my friend Joe because I know she really likes him. Then, I'm getting rid of the First Life trilogy by Gina Showalter. I picked these all up on, I can't remember if it was Book Outlet or one of the other ones at the time, but they had all 3 of the books for only a couple bucks each. I tried reading First Life. I didn't try that hard, but I think this is a dystopian world where like you choose where you're gonna go for your next life, because you have a first life and then you have a next life, and there's 2 like warring places basically. So I don't know, I don't really want to read it, so there you go. Oh, I forgot some that I have read. Let's do those. So I have read the first 2 books in the Nemesis trilogy. I've read Nemesis and Genesis, but I'm not going to read Chrysalis, and I don't want to reread these books. They were both only 3 stars for me. The audio was pretty good. It's about this like class of kids. You know what? I don't even want to explain it. I didn't like it enough to recommend it to you, but I'm just going to get rid of these 2 and this one. My sister listened to the first one and she thought it was too weird, and so she wanted me to keep reading to find out what happened, but I don't really want to, so I'm not gonna. I'm getting rid of Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. Schwab and I have a love-hate relationship. Well, just me. I really loved Vicious. Vengeful was pretty good too. But I keep buying all her other books too, and I just don't have the desire to read them anymore, so I'm gonna stop buying them. I'm getting rid of the Diabolic and the Empress. I don't even remember what these ones are about. Don't feel the desire to read them anytime soon, so there we go. I'm getting rid of Legend by Marie Lu. Don't think I'm ever gonna pick this up. Rain the Earth by A.C. Goggin. I've had this one on my shelf for years. It's time to go. Beautiful Broken Things by Sarah Bernard. This is another Bernard book. I actually have 2 copies of this because I accidentally purchased the UK version of a couple of books when I bought them from Book Depository, and I actually already had the American version, so this is like a double version. So I'm getting rid of that one. Wilder Girls by Rory Power. This one I was totally a Booktube pressure buy, but from what I know about what it's about, I won't like it. I don't like body horror. I don't really like horror at all, and I'm just not interested enough to risk it and waste my time on it when I don't think that I'll like it. For the same reason, I'm getting rid of Lonely Dead by April Henry. I bought this for October because I was going to try to read like a ghost story. I don't really like ghost stories. Not going to do it. Just My Luck by Jennifer Honeyborn. I'm pretty sure I only bought this because of what it looks like. And I think that it's a disaster story. I don't even know. But like, I don't want to read it. I don't care. The Conspiracy of Us by Maggie Hall. Got this one at a garage sale and it looked pretty, so I bought it. But I have no interest in reading this like kind of book where it's like 16-year-olds, you know, set in the past, mystery, like, don't care. Amber and Dusk by Lyra Celine. This came in a book box. See, I even have the stuff like still inside of it, but I just don't think that I'll get to it, so onward it goes. Sky Without Stars. I got this in a book box as well, and I know that it's kind of like a remastering of Les Miserables. Here's the thing, I love the musical of Les Miserables, love it, but it is one of the most depressing stories ever written, and I don't want to read a retelling of the story that's not the musical. That is shaky logic, but I never promised to be smart. I have First Rider's Call, or it's the Green Rider and First Rider's Call. These are the first 2 books in like the Green Rider series by Kristen Britton. I got about 100 pages into this one, and gosh, they're so pretty, but I just don't see myself getting into this series that has so many books in it. Those big epic fantasy series, I just don't do well with them. And I've had these for almost 2 years now and haven't had any urge to go back to finishing this book, so we'll just let it go. The Crown's Game by Evelyn Skye. Don't think I'm ever going to read it. I have The Warrior Maiden and The Piper's Pursuit by Melanie Dickerson. I have an impulse to buy all the fairy tale retellings. You'll know this. I own all of the Disney ones, and the only reason I'm not getting rid of those ones is the covers are gorgeous. Even though I've DNF'd 3 different books in that series because you guys kept always picking for us to read those ones, and then no one would like them. No one would rate them above 3 stars. And I would never finish them. But they're beautiful, and I'm going to keep them because why not? I already bought them. So if they're just pretty for pretty's sake, fine. But these ones, I don't think that I'll get to, so I'll leave them be. Mr. and Mrs. Fitzwilliam Darcy. I wanted to try this series, which was like a really long, like there's a lot of books in this series of like what happens after Pride and Prejudice. But I like the original Pride and Prejudice too much, and I like when people reimagine Pride and Prejudice. I mean, pretty much any book that's like a hate to love has some form of Pride and Prejudice in it somehow. But I just know that I won't ever read this, so I'm not going to. The Thing with Feathers by McCall Hoyle. I read a connected standalone in this series that was semi-okay, but this just isn't in my wheelhouse anymore. We Were the Lucky Ones by Georgia Hunter. This is about families who get sent to like different parts of Europe during the war, and I know that I would cry and it would make me really sad, and I just don't want to go there, so we won't. The Immortalist by Chloe Benjamin. This was given to me as a gift, so I kept it for a really long time, but I just don't think that I'm going to get to it because I haven't heard super great things about it, and it's just not going to happen. The Bone Wedge by Rin Chapeko. I keep buying this book and I keep unhauling it because I'm just not super interested in, because I believe this is like necromancy or something like that. And I don't know. Also, I don't think it like really has a romance in it either, so I'm not interested. The Chosen by Tara and Matthew. This came in a book box. Not gonna read it. Remember Me by Chelsea Bobulski. This came in a book box. Not gonna read it. And then Again But Better by Christine Riccio. Every time I pick this book up, I like shy away from it internally. So it's just, it's not gonna happen right now. So there you go. I quickly went through those books. Tell me which ones you agree with me getting rid of, which ones you think I'm making a huge mistake. They'll all be gone by the time you see this, but maybe I'll like get one of them on ebook or find it on audiobook if you think that I should give it another try. But there we go. That felt liberating, and my bookshelves out there look no different for taking 60 books off of them, which is ridiculous. You think it'd look like I got rid of more than I did, but what can you do? So thank you so much for watching this. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week, and you can watch some more of them right now. Bye.